No.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 35 of The Treat Show. I am so excited to already see my favorite people in the chat. Thank you. So I know that we have Tyler Van Horn in here. So good to see you. I missed you the last couple weeks. Mr. Leal, Robert, Mr. Greenfingers, Love for the Plant, THC Garage, Blue the Siren. So good to see you guys. How's everybody's night going? So tonight I was going to cancel the show because I've been feeling a little off lately. Well, just over the last couple days. But I've been feeling like I'm getting a little cold. It's not COVID, I don't think. I think it's just the old cold. But, so if I sound a little stuffier than usually, just bear with me. But we're going to smoke a blunt together, chill for just a little bit tonight, check in on everybody, see how we're doing. How's your guys' week been? Thank you. Been super busy. That's good to hear. I feel like it's hard to stay busy right now for a lot of people. And I think it's so exciting for those that are busy right now. It's such a blessing. So cool. So I think that there was a couple questions that I got in the chat or on my Instagram this week. Of people just messaging me on Instagram, sorry. And they were asking about aphids. And like we were talking a lot about aphids. And I'll come back to this with like pictures of the bottles and like products and stuff, and we'll do a better show. But tonight, because we're gonna be chilling, smoking a blunt, might as well just touch on it a little bit. Are you guys battling aphids out there? Has that been a problem at all for anybody this summer? I feel like they were a little extra heavy here in Colorado. We got a lot of extra rain, and I feel like we got a lot of extra weeds, and I don't know. I feel like the aphids have definitely been a struggle. Like, I will be honest that we got slammed with aphids at one point this year, and they like happened in a flower room that was like past the point of being able to treat, which is probably the most devastating thing ever. So yeah, I don't know. You guys gotta be careful. It's like, it's weird, but when we go outside and like you walk past like weeds or in the grass or anything, it's like a lot of russets and aphids. Like when you're walking past flowers and stuff, is a lot of that stuff can just carry in on you. You have no idea, but I'm sure you guys already know that. But I think, I think that's where we got into a situation. We were cleaning outside the property, and it was like the second that all the weeds and like all the grass was trimmed, then it's like they all flourished inside. So stressful, but I think if you're ever put in a position where it's like late into flower, is I think that like, I don't know. I think diatomaceous earth, I hear people love often, but then I also have a lot of people that dislike that product. I think the hardest part with diatomaceous is that you have to like almost have the medium dry before you like water or anything. Like it disintegrates with water. So I feel like it's kind of a tricky thing. It's almost like you have to water the plants before you put it on, but then by the time that they need water, you're kind of rinsing off. I don't know. So that's a tricky one, but I think that I'll do that if worst comes to worst. And those yellow sticky traps that we're all super familiar with, I think they make a huge difference. Is like, I used to hate them and like not put them up because they would just like stick across my face or like, pull your hair across the freaking trellis or whatever. But I think they do work though. I think they're not gonna like kill your infestation, I don't think, but I think they set back shit quite a bit. But anyways, as I had this person that was like, they sent me a picture of a plant that I could clearly see like this twisting in the leaf. And this is why like probably in the next show is I'll probably put some pictures on here of the products and the twisting that I'm talking about. Is sometimes, we have these types of insects that like will almost cause really similar damage to the plant. So I think it's like hard to really be able to tell sometimes. But I think this distinctive twisting on like your new growth or like old growth, or like you really see the leaves like bowing almost. I think 9 out of 10 times that's probably root aphids. And even if you, I think root aphids are super confusing because I think a lot of people see a pear-shaped root aphid on their plants, like attacking the roots, and they're big and you can see them, and they're like, okay, I have an aphid like problem. But I think the problem that happens is like when these actually morph and change and develop and like into their adult phase, is like they look just like fungus gnats. And so I think a lot of people think that they have fruit flies um or fungus gnats, and they're actually root aphids that are just like at a different stage in their lives. The other problem that I see with these guys is that it doesn't matter if you have plants in the room. So like a lot of people will think if you just kill the crop, you can get rid of the aphids. Like rustids are really similar in this regard too. Is you really, really, really have to bleach everything. Like bleach your walls, like bleach your trays, bleach your pots, bleach, like bleach, bleach, bleach. Mop with bleach, like everything to really get rid of them. And even that's hard because they get so tucked up into like the ceiling, or like I don't even know, like HVAC. Like it's crazy the places that you'll find them actually, like kind of like, I don't know, sealing themselves away. They're like, I will live. I don't know. And even in the plant, like I'll see them sometimes if I've had problems, is I'll see them like really close inside the stalk, like when you're taking off bud or anything, even if they're not in the actual bud, which is like incredible if you've had them and they don't make it that far or populate to that level. But like, I don't know, it's like sometimes they'll be like almost like as tight as you can get possibly against the stalk and the bud though. Just wedged in there. So like you can only imagine when you're spraying like how difficult it is to really hit them everywhere. Um so what I like to do is, I think that Pyganic we definitely talk about pretty often, but Pyganic I've found a lot of success in. You can only use Pyganic it's like I want to say like 5 or 10 times a year on the same crop. And the phytotoxicity I think is definitely like an issue that comes up with Pyganic. Even if you're not using things like sulfur in sync with it, is I still think that it tends to burn a little bit. If you're using it at a concentration that will set back the colony or set back whatever you're targeting. Pyganic works really good for thrips and fungus gnats and aphids as well. I would say that's like, yeah, that's a good group of things that it's targeting. Sorry, but I think that I think that when you use these is obviously follow what the bottle says, but I think in the label obviously, but I think going on the lowest concentration that they're calling for in the beginning is the best way to start, just to obviously see how your plant reacts, and it gives you like that baseline of really being able to like increase the dosage as you're combating these things. So I think if you start with like a drench and you cut what they call for to like, I would say even half or like as low as you can possibly do it. And then I'll drench the plants so I get them dry. I get them dry before this. And like soil, cocoa, tuber, like rock wool, all these mediums have a different dry out period, right? And retainment of actual moisture. So I would say that you gotta pay attention to this. But if we're starting at a low rate, you should be good regardless. So when you're using like soil though, or I mean any of these things, it's like you really want it to get as dry as possible before it's wilting, but like as dry as possible before you use a drench. And so I'll skip say like 2 days of watering and then go through, make my little reservoir. I use Pyganic with my feed just to keep my plants fed. You can use it with straight water. It does increase your pH. Like I've seen the Pyganic, like will get your pH depending on what your water is coming out at. But like our water sits right now, I would say about like 7.4, 7.5, and sometimes the Pyganic will almost push like 8. Like, and so I don't know, you want to pH it to 7 if you can, or anything below 7. Like if you pH normally at 6.3 or 6.0 or 5.8, is like you can keep it all there and use it perfectly. 6.2 or above, you're uptaking trace elements. So I try to keep it at 6. I'll be honest with you guys. Like most things that I spray or use is like I'm always pHing it to 6 People don't think that pHing like these treatments really makes a difference, but I promise you it really does. The surfactants, sorry, I'm so bad at saying that word, but those are also a great thing to use in addition to this. Is pyganic degrades pretty quickly. Is like with the light itself. So anyways, is we'll take our reservoir and do my little nutrients mix, sorry, then add in my pyganic, and like I'll tell you that the pyganic that's an EC of 1.4 versus the 5.0 is I'm a little bit more partial to. There are obviously concentration differences, and so if you get the 5.0, you're just gonna dilute it more versus the 1.4. But this is weird because they're supposed to be identical, but I've had more success with the 1.4 not burning to where I can come back and do like multiple treatments a little bit closer together. So anyways, I'll take my pyganic 1.4 and I'll mix it say at 3 mils per gallon for a drench. And so I'll start with that, 3 mils. And then for my spray though, is I'll increase my spray a little bit more. So I'll say 7 to 8 mils the first time that I spray them. And what I do is I water it in the nutrients and water my plants normal. Is I don't like a lot of runoff though. It's like you really don't want to water them with a drench until the point of runoff. So like if you have like one bead coming out the side of your pot, or you know, it doesn't have to be much, just like enough that you know that the plant in the medium's saturated. But I'll do that, and then directly after is you'll usually see the infestation start like flying up, or like even if you don't have like a wild count or anything, like say you'll start seeing a couple flyers come up. And I'll try to spray when my lights are off. So like you don't have to do this. It's like if you're in flower and you have to turn off your lights, is like it's not the end of the world. But I just try to make it a habit of mine. In that first week or so, if you're battling aphids and you're going into flower, no, it's not ideal. But this is something that won't leave any residuals in the plant by the time of harvest. You don't have to be concerned about that. But yeah, so I'll go back through with my lights off. I'll spray the concentrate, like I said, 7, 8 mils per gallon, and leave my lights off for like 12 hours, like 10 hours at least. Like I really, really let them rest during this period. And like I said, the sunlight degrades the pyganic actually, so it works on contact. It's not like it's like sitting there and like still doing crazy things, but I think your plants like it more. I think that you will avoid burning this way. Yeah, and then I don't know. It's like I would start with like say 5 to 7 days apart if you can. If your plants like show any of the yellowing, by day 6 you'll be able to see the like worst case reaction of the plant's response to the treatment. So you can wait until till day 6, and then you could apply another treatment on day 7 if you felt more comfortable the first time. But that will really set back numbers. Like even with the other insects that we're talking about, the fungus gnats and like things like that, thrips, is like it will really, really do work. You have to sometimes do upwards of like 3 to 4 treatments, but I think that I don't know. I think it's an awesome little secret. Let's see. I'm gonna see what is going on in the chat really fast. Sorry. Oh, the nematodes. The nematodes do work really, really good. You're right, for aphids. I think that they're awesome. I just think that they're kind of expensive, but pyganic's expensive. I feel like it's just the struggle is real. Oh, Michelle Barnhill, it's so good to see you. It's really, everybody's got to check out Michelle's page too. It's really cool to see a female crushing the grow lives, and it seems like Michelle's like popping seeds out there pretty often as well. Blue as well. It's so cool that we got the ladies in here. Gentlemen, so much love to you as well. It's just, I think it's cool to see that there's women growing so much more now. It's cool. Sorry, my nose is tickling. Let's see. Cheers. Zora, I hope you're doing well this afternoon. It's cool that you guys talk to each other. I will say that's like one of my favorite things too, is you can see like all the homies in the chats. Like I love when I see other people's lives too and see you guys in their lives. Like it's just an awesome community you guys got going on. Nematodes go all the way. Sorry, this is Patriarch of the Mosaics. Nematodes go all the way till the end. Spray a few times. Uh, you get them cheap? How can I be down? Well, I feel like that's awesome. If you have the plug on them, is that the last time I was using nematodes in a commercial grow was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I feel like it was incredible. Like they definitely work really really well for taking out an aphid population, especially late into flower. I'm glad that you pointed that out. I just think that I'm not a huge fan of introducing insects to a commercial indoor grow. It's like I believe in beneficial insects. I definitely like am a fan of them, and I think there's a time and a place and a space. But I've seen commercially like grove beetles and even like the parasitic wasp and stuff like that. They do great work on definitely setting back these populations. But I think it's like it gets really challenging when they run out of things. Like it's weird, but when they really do run out of like the aphids or run out of the pests that you're targeting, it's something that a lot of people don't talk about is like a lot of insects will start targeting the tissue of the plant and things like that. I mean, obviously, if you have any type of insect, they're going to be consumed by this. But if you really get to the point that you have nothing, is I've seen them cause damage. It's very, very rare. Very, very rare. But I think that if you're using them outside, obviously, it's so much easier to have that ecosystem, like, really keep everything in check. Versus, I think sometimes when you, like, bring these things in is you almost need something to, like, keep them in balance. Otherwise, they start populating like crazy. I don't know. Okay, you're chopping tomorrow. I sprayed Thursday and my plant's clean as hell. Oh, that is awesome. I think that's fantastic. Green fingers, I'm sad to see. Oh, okay. Respect, Fazoli. I thought you were heading out. I thought that was the piece. I was going to be like, I'm so sad to see that. I'm sorry. Chopping tomorrow. Yeah, we started harvesting on Friday. And I was like trying to be so ambitious and be like, oh, yeah, we can finish this. And no. I feel like it's been a little hectic lately. I feel like the clone business and work and I don't know, just everything has felt crazy. I've been helping my parents on the weekends. They have a warehouse for their company. It has nothing to do with weed, but they're doing some stuff there, and I feel like it has just been like go, 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 go. So everybody else out there, do you guys feel like that? Sometimes I feel like everybody's in sync at the same time. Like whenever you're feeling a little off or like anxious or your schedule's like too much. I don't know. Do you guys feel like that? Or the opposite. Sometimes usually this is like the time of the year that my business will get really slow coming up here. Not quite yet, but probably like around late October, November 1st is like for the whole time I've been in the cannabis industry it's not till about February after that point that it really starts picking up again. And I'm curious this year because it's been so slow in cannabis, like, or such a trying year period that I'm really kind of nervous and curious on this first winter though, just to see how everybody's kind of doing it and staying afloat. Do you guys see anybody? I don't know, anybody that you really want to like shout out or you'd like to see come on the show that's like trooping through all this? I feel like, I don't know. I want to talk to as many people that I can find right now is as far as talking about their passion is like, it's hard to think that somebody's like growing weed to hustle anymore, or maybe in the right state for a short period. But I think it's coming back to passion, and I think it's actually refreshing to see. I don't know. What do you guys think? Ooh, ladybugs. First time I introduced them, they all committed suicide into the lights and fans. Oh my God, yes. Okay, Big Farm. Back in like 2011 or 2012 was the first time that I ever introduced ladybugs, and we had the triple X's and like cool like ducked like I don't know, everything was ducked together, and like it was just, I don't know if anybody remembers the triple X's, but like taking off the sheets of glass like were not easy. It's like they weren't the fancy. It wasn't until later that they had the ones with the hinges or whatever, and so you'd have to slide out that sheet, and there'd always be like one that got broken, could never replace. But the ladybugs, like you said, they like all went into the actual like the glass of the fixtures, and we had to take down all the lights, and then the ladybugs were like stuck to all the fucking weed, and it was just, I remember being like, like the first moment I walked into the room and released the ladybugs, I remember feeling like I was like Mary Poppins or something. And then I remember like not even like 3 days later being like, holy shit. We just took out a whole population of ladybugs. So sad. That's the same with the bees. Is I used to live by a beekeeper in Lyons, and she was so cool, but she had like 2 hives, and we had a hot tub at the house, and the little top on the hot tub, the bees used to always go in the hot tub for the water, but then they would get stuck with the lid, and I don't know, it does remind me of those ladybugs in the triple X's. It's just so sad. So sad. It's weird. It's like, for as many insects as I do not like, there's a lot of insects that I get so sad or like try to save or like take outside. I don't know. I definitely like moths. I caught a little hummingbird moth. I think they're actually called like hawk moths. It was like 2 weeks ago. Maybe not even that long ago, but it was so cool. I don't know if you guys like have them where you live or if you see them and they're like actually the size of a hummingbird. Well, it was in the dirt and it was just chilling and there was like the dogs out there and I was nervous that they were going to try to eat it. And so I picked it up and it let me like pick it up and like chill with it on my lap for a second. And it's like it dusted off its wings and then just like took off. She was like, have a good day. Oh, I thought it was cool. Hawks are one of my favorite birds. So when I saw the hawk moth, I was like, man, it sucks that you get ate by these. I don't know. What's your guys' favorite insects or birds? Do you guys like any insects particularly? I feel like those praying mantis, the orchid mantis, have you guys ever seen those? I've been trying to, honestly, it's always been my dream to have my like home grow have them so bad is I wanted to use those as my like pest management. And they have like the leaf mantis and I thought it would be so cool if I could breed those eventually, but just have them in your room just because they're gorgeous. I've always even wanted to plant orchids on my plants. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever tried this, but like orchids, they propagate mostly off of like trees in the wild, obviously in tropical places, but their actual climate is so similar to cannabis and like their light cycle. It's cool how orchids bloom. Is orchids actually they make their own bloom cycle internally, like dictated upon themselves. Is like there's nothing, I don't know. It's like some can bloom for like months at a time and some can only bloom like for weeks at a time, and they'll change their little cycles, but they'll always stay consistent to whatever their cycle they've set up from the get-go. So some of them bloom a couple times a year and some of them only bloom that once. And I think they're phenomenal, but I think that if you could put them and wrap them on like plants in your flower room and like really do them large, like if you were growing your weed plants and veg for like 6 months at least, like you would have some tankers going into flower. And I think it would be the most beautiful thing to have the orchid mantis and like the orchids hanging on the trees. Oh, yeah, you definitely couldn't use pesticides. If we were talking about a system like that, we couldn't use any of these treatments. A trapdoor spider? Ooh, I'm going to have to look this up. A trapdoor spider. What does it look like? I feel like spiders kind of creep me out. It's the one thing that you get used to like accidentally grabbing in a garden for sure. Is I think you'll be like washing a pot and like grab one, or like one will be on you or in your sleeves or whatever. But my mom got bit by a brown recluse one time. And it was as bad as everybody says. Like, she almost did die. It was, like, in the firewood. And she, like, went to pick up this bundle of wood. And it got in her jacket and bit her twice. And, like, flesh. Like, all the gross things that people describe with these bites. It's, like, I don't know. She had to go to the hospital because she got so sick. This is years ago. But ever since that happened, though, I started, like, being terrified of spiders. I started getting bit by them at my house. These things called hobo spiders. Little a-holes. Is for some reason I get them like crazy, and I've been bit by them like 3 or 4 different times in my house. But they're like wolf spiders almost, or boho spiders, hobo or boho spider. I think it's a hobo spider. I'm sorry, but yeah, a lot of people don't know wolf spiders are venomous, and like they're not like prone to biting people. They're not aggressive, so they don't. I don't know. They don't mess with you very often, but spiders just. They scare me. They scare me in this way. I'm sorry. Nasty spider. Oh, they look like a baby tarantula. See, wow. The only tarantula I'll mess with is tarantula tequila. And I don't know. I feel like as far as like even in like science class and like biology and stuff, when they would have like the spider, it was always like that weird ass teacher that would have like the snake and the 15 spiders or whatever. And it's like, I don't know, dude. Like, I get like, yeah, I get certain things, but not that. Mm. Have you guys ever had like a chameleon or like a gecko or a lizard or something? Now those have been some of my favorite pets as far as like they have again like so many similarities with like cannabis as far as climate and kind of like the obstacles, like the pump shit out, like you got to keep it humid, they got to drink like fresh moving water. There's all these things. And they have to have the 12 and 12 lights and I don't know, they're just like fascinating creatures, but I think they would be super cool in a flower room too. Like, damn, everybody bring your pet to work day. It has to be like uh, less or more than 4 legs. I feel spiders are no joke. No, sorry. Brought up like PTSD. Brown recluse is scary. They'll F you up. Yeah. Black widows too. Like one time I got this consulting job in the mountains and it was like up by Evergreen. So it was Evergreen just like if you live in the mountains in Colorado, you're gonna have like brown recluse and black widows, like pretty commonly. I know that you can have them everywhere, but pretty common in these places. So I like go in this guy's grow tent and it's like my first day though and they like aren't there. Like these people aren't there. I'm just going there to water and I haven't like seen shit. I don't know where shit is and I like go to like lean into this tent and there's this black widow that has her web like totally across the bottom of this like whole tent. Like the whole like just like wedged in there like perfect, like protecting like all the weed. Like don't touch it. I don't know. I had a black widow named Rose one time as a pet. I thought she was so freaking cool. And my mom found her actually, and this is like when I lived with them, and young obviously, and she let me keep this spider in a mason jar, and it had like this air, like these little air holes and all that stuff. So anyway, she like laid these 2 sacks, and I used to feed her crickets because my chameleon would eat crickets, and I would get her crickets at the same time. And this like, okay, it was the wildest thing I've ever seen. She like kills the crickets, but then she like carries them all the way to the top of the jar, like the upside like underside of the lid, would carry all these individually up and then wrap them all together. And all of a sudden there was like 2,000 babies. It was like super weird. It was like she preserved this like food bank and then I don't know, black widows, you know, they only have to be like exposed to a male once and then they're like fully loaded to take care of business themselves. And so I guess they eat their babies though and the male. They're pretty savage. I don't know. So she had 2,000 babies and my parents were so pissed. They had to like seriously bug bomb our whole house, like call a professional, like they got out of the jar. It was like it was a whole thing. That was the only spider I've ever had. Let's see. One teacher would drop the the shedded skin on girl's desk as he walked by. That is so bad. That is so disgusting. Sheds of any kind. I'm not a huge fan of. Snakes. I don't know. I always wanted to be a snake girl. It never worked out. I just can't do it. Well, I guess we could go back to weed now. Thank you for letting me just rant about all that. What's going on? So this RS11, that's what I'm smoking on. I just got this clone actually, and I'm super excited because everybody was like talking to me about this RS11, and I was like, "What the hell is RS11?" And I still don't know. I'm sorry. I can look it up now. But I feel like it tastes so good for like a sweet strain. And like it still carries like that aesthetic kind of like purple kind of thing going on, but it doesn't taste like purple weed. Like I'm just saying that if you see it out and about, like give this weed a chance because it's not like I was expecting it to be like a Runs or Gelato or like Girl Scout, like anything from any of those lines kind of like once I saw the way it looked. But now that I've been smoking it, it gets you like so high, and it has a really nice flavor, but I feel like it takes you further, and it's still like a little bit more like gassy's not the right word, cushy's not the right word, but like a little bit more like heavy than a purple strain, like or purple weed or something. I don't know. Anyways, I feel like okay, so. Is anybody else? I'm trying to think of like aphids. So imidacloprid is not. You're not allowed to use it in any commercial facilities. Like at least in Colorado, I know like Oregon we have to follow the same. California we're the same. So yeah, you can't use this in your commercial grows. Sorry. But at home you can use this, and I feel like You can get it at Home Depot. It's really inexpensive. And like when we're talking about like Avid and Forbid and imidacloprid, all of those products, right? So aside from what people's like beliefs are, we've kind of touched on this a few different times, but you can use these safely, and you can use it with no residuals or anything like that in your actual finished product. But I recommend don't like use these outside. It's not good for bees, so we don't want to use these outside. But I think that yeah, if you take like your mom's like anything, even like if you're like combating like honestly like HLVD or botrytis or fusarium or pythium, like I will say that this does tremendous work on your plants, and you would never see it coming. Is the Forbid and Avid, I would say, are pretty similar products. They're not similar active ingredients at all, but they're very similar as far as like application rate, like residuals in a plant. They're both foliar treatments, and they both target majority of the same pest, which is majority of these pests. But for aphids specifically, is I see a lot of success with Avid and Forbid if you have like moms or something that you really want to hold on to. I wouldn't recommend any of those products if you're like planning on running the crop. So if you're in veg or flower or anything like that, you couldn't use any of these. It's just their half-life wouldn't be out in time. But if you see at like Home Depot so they'll have a couple different choices of imidacloprid that you can get, and it's like mostly it's targeted I think for roses. So like most times they have like rose like pictures on the bottle or something like that, but look for the active ingredient that's only imidacloprid, and it's usually like 5% or less, and that's all you need. So whatever the label says, once again, like follow the label, but mix it even low, like at the lowest point that the label calls for a drench of imidacloprid. Is I would treat your moms with it if you've really been battling aphids for like the last 6 months or a year or longer. It's like this will really just put you in a progressive movement forward. So you can do like any of your genetics that you want to keep around, or the plants that you want to keep. So what I do is I'll treat them once again with like the drench, same exact way. It's like where you want the plants medium to be kind of dry before you put it in. You don't want too much runoff, and I'll keep my lights off, right, for at least 8 to 10 hours. Like the drench is not necessarily with that, I guess. Some people believe drenches don't work as effectively unless the lights are on, but I just say as a rule of thumb is I found that it's good for me to just keep my lights off, is just to avoid any of the phytotoxicity that we're talking about. And I think the plants, I don't know, I think they just stay a little bit more chill with these treatments. So anyways, is I think if you use the imidacloprid, it's like, I want to say that Home Depot, I wish I had the bottle in front of me, I'm sorry, but I want to say the standard rate is like 15 mils to 30 mils per gallon. They might say it's like a quarter tablespoon to a full tablespoon per gallon. But yeah, is you want to use that on the low end. So I would start with like, if that's what the label says, is I would start with the 15 mils and kind of like look at what like the age of my plants, the size of my plant, and everything like that. So if I'm working with like a teen, is I'll probably take that number down to like 8 mils per gallon and do the drench that way. And I think that you'll see a lot of great success though, is most of those pesticides, the only reason that I even would talk about them or like say use them is your plant hasn't been exposed to them. A lot of plants have been exposed to pyganic or neem or azodactrin or any of those things. Even like BioSafe's products like the Zerotol and Oxyphos, those products like will tend to like damage, like I don't want to say damage your plant, but like if it's really hard, is they'll dry out your like trichome heads and things like that. And it's even hard in vegetation, is they'll like kind of keep your plants dry, like, you know. So anyways, I prefer these products if I have the option to use them. And so what I'll do is I'll treat all my plants, all the plants that you're trying to get rid of this insect, this aphid, and then I'll clone all of those. So instead of running those, is I'll just clone them, and you'll see that your plant, like if you wait, like say you do this treatment, wait like 5 days, and then take all of your fresh tops, you could wait a little bit longer, honestly. You could wait like 7-10 days, and you don't want to wait too long though, is you don't want to give the plant another opportunity to get exposed to that insect again and start like its growth cycle being interfered with in any way. So it doesn't sound like tissue culture, and it's really, I mean, it's not, obviously, but it's a different way, a different approach to give your plant an optimal chance to be able to outgrow something and be able to defend itself. So you can do this, like, say 30 days. Say 30 days that this pesticide, imidacloprid, is going to be protecting your plant. So if you can manage to take a couple sets of clones in that meantime and then put those in a quarantine area, clean your room with bleach, is, I think that you'll see how beautiful your plants come along, and like how much they turn around a lot quicker than if you're trying to do these approaches with, like, a green cleaner is a really popular product. And I'm not going to say anything bad on green cleaner, but I'm going to say that I think that if you really have an infestation, is, and I think that they would say this, is like, it's never going to get rid of the problem. It'll keep it at bay, and it will keep it maybe hidden for the most part. But there's a lot of products I see like that out on the market that a lot of people like to use. And I don't know. Maybe the infestation is not to that level yet, but I think for those that really have had the problem for like a long time, or it comes back, like where it will go away and you'll feel really good. You're like doing your awesome IPM, and they'll like keep popping in, and I feel like that's the problem that we all battle, is like you'll feel like everything's gone. But rule of thumb, I think the second that you feel like everything's gone, just know you have another 6 months of really making sure it's gone. But I think, I don't know, I think that does work. The Avid and the Forbid, it's weird because everybody like talks about these so shitty, but they're really not like that. All these products are not like really severe, like risk products. Like there is pesticides that are labeled, and like they have a different category of like severity, I guess, that they can cause, or like hazard. And I want to say like all of those are on, let's say, low to medium, maybe is Forbid and Avid would be like medium risk. But they're really not. Is, I feel like if you wear all your PPE gear, you follow the instructions, like, no. And if you really want to be precautionary, is I feel like using gloves, it's like a habit that we all get out of, I think. But if you use gloves, like after you do these treatments in your room for like 2 weeks, and like just while you're interacting with the plants and things like that, I think it really, if you're concerned in any way, like health wise, is like, yeah, be precautionary. I'm never gonna say that that's bad with any type of product, but I just think, yeah, I think that it's worth killing the infestation though, to go down this path. And it really, again, is, I think, just lack of exposure. Is, I think that these plants actually have an opportunity. That the thing is you can't fix like past damage on a plant. You can only change new growths. So it's a weird thing to think about, but once these things get like damaged so much by like the roots getting targeted, and then they start moving into the foliar, like it's just, I think it just becomes like so like detrimental, not only to the plant, but like devastating when you walk into your room and you have to like see this and feel this way. And when you start spending a lot of money, I think Pyganic, for like a gallon of Pyganic is like $800 or something. And I think for a quart of Pyganics, it's about like 100, maybe 120. But I can only do like one treatment out of Pyganic from one of those bottles, really, for the amount of plants and stuff. So I think though for a normal home grower, is I think that the Pyganic 1.4 is, if you can find it for around 100, is I think that you could probably get, let's say, if you had 6 to 12 plants, like your little mom room and your flower tent, is I feel like that would at least last you for whatever the maximum applications you can put on your harvest that year. So that 5 treatments or 10 is, I feel like you would at least be able to get your full harvest and probably 3 other crops out of one of those quart bottles. Yeah. Let's see. Green cleaner isn't systemic and only kills on contact. Most people don't get thorough coverage, so the problems linger. Yeah, it's like, so this is like weird. Is, so imidacloprid is the systemic one out of all the pesticides I listed. Forbid and Avid are actually not systemic. Is, a lot of people think that they're systemic. They penetrate the leaves deeper, and so the residuals will stay longer. The half-life is longer, but it's not actually treating the plant systemically. The Pyganic, though, like you're saying, is like, or I'm sorry, with the green cleaner, is like the green cleaner is I have seen people have good success with it and like setting back stuff. But like you said, because it's not systemic, neither is like Azamax or some of these other things where it's like specifically like anything targeting and damaging your roots. The best way to really set them back, I think, is something systemic. Which is like shitty that everybody kind of like abused the systemic world. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, Eagle 20. It's like, I feel like Eagle 20 made everybody terrified of systemic shit because so many people were spraying like their crops into like week 6 and beyond, for powder mildew specifically. But I think that when you really think about this, is like green cleaner would be a perfect product as like a preventative or like an IPM that you should like that you could proactively and regularly use. But I think that it's just specifically when your infestation gets to like that next level, or like I said, if you're like holding on to genetics that you know are sick, that you know that you can't lose though. It's like, I hate to say it, but there's so much stuff that like, let's just say if like you pop something and you're like, okay, this is my favorite pheno, and I have one friend that has this backed up, but is Charles really going to grow it outright? Or I don't even know. Is he going to get bugs or whatever's going to go down? So I feel like those are the plants more that come to mind when I'm thinking about these things. If you're just like hustling and like filling in like a perpetual or filling in a gap, like, no, I wouldn't use these products. But it's like, because you're like into that speed factor and you need this like constant turnover. So I would use a lot of products that are like green cleaner and the Pyganic and Azamax. Specifically, I would probably use in that situation. But I don't know. Another thing though is cinnamon. Is like, I know that we also talked about that before, but cinnamon's another one that like instead of like an essential oil application is like actually just raw cinnamon on the top of your medium. If you're again battling with like, I don't know, fungus gnats, thrips, aphids. Let's see. I was thinking about like even like your house plants. If you have like some of these weird, I was trying to think of any of them, but I'm sorry, I got high. Is yeah, like grubs or like anything like that. You could put cinnamon on them, and they will like. Cinnamon is crazy, and it's like really good for any microbial like issues or imbalances. So if you are battling like PM, I don't know, but Colorado frost, I really appreciate you saying that, and I do think you're absolutely correct. I think that the thorough coverage too is I've never been able to like treat a garden without like me doing it. It's like I'm not gonna say I've never had help. I've had people definitely help me like treat these rooms and stuff, like feeding you your line or something like that, and that is a huge assistance. But I think that when I'm actually like going into a job to like fix their issues, it's like you always have to do it yourself. And like I use a Graco paint sprayer that's not like, it's not like a huge one, but it's not small either. It has like the cart, and you insert it into a 5-gallon bucket. They run about $500. I think it's the best investment I have ever purchased in my life. I've used it for probably about 10 years now. Not that same one, but I will say they last for a couple years, and I'm pretty hard on them. And you can like, their warranty's awesome. I don't know. I think that gives you a lot of control over your coverage for an inexpensive price point. Is like, I use it at my house too. Is it like makes it way easier to really saturate or like smog a space, or I don't know, just like any of those things. Is I think it gives you an upper hand. But what I like to do when I spray though is like, I like to go through like the bottom of my canopy with the paint sprayer like pretty high, like on like, I don't know, its outputs. So the microns are still really small, but it's pushing through a lot of water. So if like I'll go through, and if I have an infestation like on the bottom, is I'll start there and kind of like make sure that I see all the leaves like fluffing up to like the back of my trays forward. And then I'll go like to my top and like, I don't know, I just like make sure that I drench the living shit. I can't say drench, sorry, but saturate the living shit out of the plant. Inside and out. And most times that I'm like having to spray like this, honestly, is I'm like, if you can even rinse off some of these pests, it makes a huge difference. The only thing that I think people don't think of that's kind of weird is no matter what you're spraying, is I think nobody wants to smoke flower that's been treated. Like nobody. Like I don't care who you are. Am I going to say that you're never going to be put in that position? Like you're going to be put in that position as a grower and cultivator, and I think that that's where there's different levels of knowledge and respect on like who we choose to buy weed from, you know? And I think that basically anytime that your plant is like producing or developing these trichome heads, like where it's really producing flowers, right? Like the flower sites is, let's just say week 2.5, like 3 is like, that's the part where we're going to start seeing the sites actually coming up on the plant. And so I think after that point, you really don't want to be treating anything. But beyond that is for the people that like have ran into situations, and had to treat later than that, is like you got to be careful though with bud rot. Is like if you go through a room, you know, and spray too late, is like I've seen like people's like forums and like tricks online and shit about like PM and stuff, and like even aphids and whatnot. It's like go through with Dawn dish soap and like go spray the outside of the plant and all that stuff. Is you got to be careful to not give your plant bud rot though. Is like when your nug is actually developed and like the buds are actually producing like that and stacked like that, is the humidity and the moisture content you don't want in between there. So sometimes it's not just like even the product itself, but it's like it's just I don't think like the plant the plant doesn't want it. So I don't know, those are the obstacles though that I'm talking about too when you get like at week 7, when you get an infestation of aphids or russet mites later in your crop. Is like it's probably the most devastating thing. Even people that battle like PM on like week 8 or week 9 is like, and I'm not saying like your room is covered in PM. I'm saying like when you have like a leaf like starting to show symptoms and you're like, shit, I gotta get this down so fast. Is like, I feel like we've all been put in these like hard positions. And if you haven't, you're probably going to be along the way. Like, I don't know. I just think growing is one of those things that we've all ran into like so much stuff that nobody wants to talk about because we've all kind of like not talked about it in the best ways or something, or like see ourselves as like superior or not superior or something like that. But it's like I think the plant will always keep you humbled. It's like if you grow for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, it's like, or longer, you know, these guys that have been growing 30, 35 years, is like you're gonna have every insect under the sun. And now that like HLVD is so prevalent and people are talking about so often, but I think it's crazy like how much Pythium and Botrytis and Fusarium have been around for so long and like completely wiped out some of the best grows that I've worked with. And like you walk into their facility and all their rooms are dead and they died in 48 hours. And it's like, holy shit. And like it has nothing to do with like, oh, this guy really dropped the ball. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's weird, but it's like plants will always keep you in check. See, my weed is almost gone. Give me 1 second. I can't reach. So, sorry guys, but I'm at the end of my jar. Anyways, IROC. IROC has been growing some fire. This was IROC's weed, and I think it is so cool. As I know Dark Horse just had IROC on their show last week. And IROC is like one of these OGs that like I didn't even know how cool like IROC was until like I kept hearing him come up and like all these like homegrown competitions and like competitions from back in the day in Amsterdam, all this stuff. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. As this guy comes over and he's just like chill and like mellow and just like super real, and he's just really passionate about what he does. And he like hooks all the squad up with some beautiful weed. So I don't know, everybody, if you haven't checked out the last Dark Horse show, you should check out the last Dark Horse show with IROC on there. Super cool. And Nicotine I was super excited that we got Nicotine in the studio last week. I know that they did some like mansion party last night in Denver. It was like a Halloween like weed mansion something party. I was gonna go. I thought about it. But then I was like, gotta clone and do all this other stuff. So didn't quite make it. But I think that from the stuff I saw on Instagram, it looked like a pretty good turnout. I'm not honestly sure, so I'll have to follow back up on this. But Nicotine was supposed to be DJing, and I think that's pretty cool. Like, I was hoping to get to see him. I haven't actually got to see him DJ, so I was like, man, that would be awesome. It was really funny too. Interviewing him is I didn't realize, but Nicotine worked at like on the retail side of Pink House. And it was just really funny to me that, like, he didn't know that I ever even worked there. And I just thought it was hilarious. I was like, even for the same company, because that's the retail side. And then I worked at Megatron, which is one of their bigger grows. And it's just funny, like thinking about it, that I was like, even back then, like you could work for the same company and have no idea. But I don't know. I think that this is pretty cool to see like everybody trooping through, like we said, the market and all this stuff. But at the same time, like I know we're all coming back. I know that there's been a lot of like posts on Instagram that I've seen lately of everybody out there that we follow, or I definitely notice you and check you out too, to see what everybody else is doing with their lives. And I feel like everybody's kind of been hitting these like obstacles, or like had family members pass away recently, or just like some of these terrible things, like whether that's sickness and financial struggles, business things, or it seems like everybody kind of has this like heaviness lately. And I just want to send all of the love to everybody and really say that everybody's in my prayers, and that I think that no matter what's going on, is everybody does need to be reminded on how special everybody is. And like I think in a world that values such like weird things now, or like puts like these false values on dumb shit, is like I think that we all have to be reminded that, I don't know, that you're like an exceptional person, you know? And then it's weird to think, but like how life like chose you to like keep on keeping on. And like I don't know. I just hope that you guys are doing good out there. And I send you the love. What are you guys smoking? VW, Buds, what are you smoking on? Super good to see you in the chat too. Buddy, it is called life. Yes, it is. Nicotine, you don't even grow or know how to grow. Def not a real pothead, just someone here to make money. Oh, Clem D. Well, you know, it is interesting because I feel like there's a lot of people in the industry that I've seen like gain a lot of popularity and like a big following and things like that. I'm not saying him specifically, but just a lot of people that I've seen, and they don't actually like really cultivate. And it's like a crazy thing because I think they do, but it's like more detached, as I think. It's like they've worked with other people, or they've worked with other growers that like have ran some things or collaborated on. I don't know. It's just like an interesting thing to me. I'm like, it would be so weird if I didn't grow, like to be in this industry. Like the times that I worked retail was just like, I think it's good to like have knowledge and experience in all the areas. And especially I was going to open a store. So it was like, it made sense at the time opening their stores. But I think that, I don't know, I think that I couldn't even like work in retail for very long periods of time. Like I remember Lightshade, I've worked for 5 different times, but I would work there for like 3-4 months and like and be like so excited. And this company was super good to me. Is like they usually, you know, wouldn't let people really do that. And they're super nice. And so they would let me come back, and I would help them open locations and like train their staff and stuff. And then I would be like, guys, I just got to get back into the grow. And I would leave and go do another job. And it was just, I think the whole point is the weed though, is like even times in my life that, like I said, like slow times of the year have happened like my whole career in this. So I feel like it's weird, but you like will have those months around Christmas and like taxes and all this other shit where like you'll just be paying to have like your grow, you know, like it's or the clones or like whatever. And I don't know, is I think that it just really shows like I think it really shows like the people that can't be without the plant. Sometimes I get so like dreamy about like thinking like, oh, I wonder if I didn't have like my plants, and like if I went on vacation, or like all these things, or if I wasn't nervous like at night, or I don't know, you like wonder these things, like what it would be like. And then like when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, that would be terrible. It'd be so terrible to lose like some of my genetics I've had for like seriously like 8 or 9 years of like moving and like taking everywhere, and like neighbors bitching and people breaking in. All kinds of shit has happened, and it's like it's crazy to me that I'm like, I can't get rid of you. Like, you guys feel that? I know you do. Anybody in this chat? Tyler, I just grew out this Tiki's Moon Runs 2.0, fucking amazing. Tyler Van Horn, he's like an incredible we talked about this, incredible person to see in the industry right now, like crushing the retail, like, and then he crushes his grow. It's like he really cares about genetics. He really like is passionate about this. Sorry. And he's just somebody that I think is really gonna shine in this industry and in this market. Mike Denver, it's so good to see you in the chat. Purple mids. Oh, you're right. Gerhardt, it is a crazy month. Skittles. Probably, yeah, is I've been trying not to smoke Skittles because I've been smoking it too much and I honestly don't want to get tired of the strain. And sometimes I do that. I will think I can't do it, but I will do it. Kosher went a little hard. Bukush went a little hard. I feel like so I'm trying to take it easy, but the Z is where it's at. It's funny. It's a strain that I can't trade or sell or do anything with because the person that traded me or gifted me, should I say, with it is like asked for me never to do anything with it. And it's like it's weird, but like I feel like this is something that's like forgotten as well. It's like some people like will take the market right now and be like genetics don't matter and clones don't matter and everybody can get everything. Like I have people hit me up all the time for clones and then find out my price and they're like, "Oh, I can get that from somebody else." And I'm like, "Cool. Like that is awesome." I could give a shit less, but I think that the thing is like you want like the respect to like stay in our community of like keeping things tight and like really like being true to our word with that. It's like this is weird, but I think you'll always get like the teaser of like the temptation, like you know the snake in the apple tree kind of thing of of like somebody will have something that you really want and they'll be like, "Oh, can I trade you that Z?" or something like that. And you're like, "Damn, if I could only do this." And they promise that they'll never do anything and all these things. But the truth is like I've learned by all the times of doing that is like you can't ever break somebody's word with that. Is one time I got a strain from 14ers that I wasn't supposed to get, and it was called The Truth. And it was listed at the time for $1 million on their clone list. And it's really crazy, but I feel like once they found out that I had it, is like it was such a like not cool feeling. Like it was like I couldn't run this trade, right? Because I wasn't supposed to have it. So I couldn't like advertise. I couldn't like sell it. I could like definitely do some shit on the DL that would probably take away any value and character and all that stuff. But I don't know. So one day I just got so frustrated with it. I like text them and I was like, "Guys, I just want you to know." And they didn't ask me to do this clarification, but I was like, "I just want you guys to know I killed this strain." It's like, until you want me to run this or until you want me to have this, like, I don't want it. And I don't know, is I feel like that's something that's so important. It's so important. I know Dark Horse is the same way. Like, he has a lot of stuff that he's like worked with or that they've acquired genetics wise or traded and stuff like that that I know can't get out. And like, and I respect them so much as a company to like see that same kind of thing stay true. Is I don't know. It sounds like ridiculous, but people get like pissed and they get into huge fights about like who gets these cuts and who named something or who wasn't supposed to have something, and shit always gets handed out. Is I feel like it's like nature of the beast. I feel like it's too hard to keep it to yourself probably, but I think the Z is definitely a strain like that. Is I it's not even just with me. Is I was working with a really tight group that I won't say right now, but they were one of the first to get the Skittles cut in Colorado. And there was plenty of times that I was like working in this space by myself and like, you know, you could take a cut or something like that. And I remember just how like nervous they were of that. And there wasn't cameras, there wasn't things like that. So I just remember though that I was so important to him that he was like, "I never want this out." And I remember like it was just like, damn it. Like it was like cool. Like we were supposed to breed it. I was supposed to do the breeding project, and he still did. He was like, "I'll give you seeds." I was like, damn. But I don't know. It's cool. I'm like super supportive of strains that bring that value and like maintain that. And like, I don't know. I think there's so much like, there's so many unstable strains, I think, in the market as a whole right now. And then so many people like keep breeding those and like, they haven't even had like enough time, I don't think, to like not just stabilize, but I feel like even for the breeder, like almost get like their moment of hype or years. It used to take years, right? Like 5 or 6 years between seed drops. And between a lot of the best breeders, and I'm saying like it's just small selection is like small selection, and now that that's kind of going away, is I feel like the quality is also a little squirrely with like clone onlys and stuff like that. I see shit online all the time that's like, oh, this clone only, this clone only, and I'm like, it's just weird. It's like I don't even think that people talk about clone onlys like is what a clone only is. It's like it's crazy, but it's like a breeder's pick or a breeder's cut is different than a clone only. You know, it could be the same. I mean, I guess, see, I guess that could kind of be the same as far as if a breeder picks a cut and that's what they run with forever, and like the kosher or something like that from DNA, and they like pick something and they like set on it and they're like, okay, this is now a clone only because nobody has it. I think you could probably get kosher seed packs, yeah. But if it, so I guess that's where it could get a little weird. But anyways, the clone onlys were if you couldn't get them, right? Like Mars OG. It's like you can't get a pack of Mars OG seeds. I'm sure somebody reversed that shit now, and I'm sure you can now, but I don't know. It's like, what do you guys even think about that though? Like with these reversals, do you guys think that you're really like? Would you trust it? Would you trust like reversing your most precious strain, and making seeds and like really trust feminized seeds and really trusting that this is going to be exactly the same as the original cut that you had? Like, I'm saying I know that that's a little different than what we were just talking about, but how would you feel? Like, I don't know. I even wonder that with tissue culture, you know, it's like I've done tissue culture for a job, and like, and I've worked with other people now. Andrew Hatch, I like refer to all of my friends that need anybody for that. But I think that tissue culture to me though, I don't even trust the way that you should trust that. Is like, even if they're my friends, I'm like, I don't want to A, give you all my genetics. B, I don't want to like put something in a tube and then hope that like the fridge doesn't go out, hope that my space doesn't get contaminated, hope that somebody doesn't like open the jar too early, or I don't know. It's just like all that shit makes me so nervous too. I'm like, would you trust it? How do you guys feel? Most potheads don't grow. Yeah, I've noticed that. It's like all these hype boys though, like for reals, like all the guys that know the strains off the top of their head. I swear that this is not a good way to gauge people, because I'm not bashing on this, because I don't know, but it's a weird thing I've noticed. It's like people that actually work in the garden and like grow weed and like even breed weed and all this stuff is like, they know what they like. They know what they're looking for. They know whatever, but they don't know shit about the crosses. Like you'll ask somebody like, I don't know, what's a cross of like Chem Dog that really works in the garden every single day. And they're like, I have no idea. But it's like you ask like some of these guys that have never grown a plant in their entire life, and they're like, oh, it's blah, 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 and it came out in this time, and there's definitely a value. I think it's so incredible when people can do that. But I just think it's a weird, like, thing that I've seen that most of those guys that have like the most following for weed or like can speak about these things like probably so much better is they don't have a lot of experience with working with the actual plants. Clem D, do you not like nicotine? I'm sorry, I just gotta ask you. Let it out. Tell me what happened. It's funny is I thought nicotine got in a fight with JJ one time at this Homegrowers Cup I was a judge at in like 2018, and it was a while obviously now, but I thought it was nicotine and JJ the entire time. Like I remember like walking up, seeing them screaming and yelling in my mind, right? And then I found out it's this total different guy, Nick, and somebody was like, Jay, we smoked with nicotine after that. And I like was like, I thought he was in his Subaru, and I don't know, it shows like how high I was. I feel like I don't know, but I felt so bad. I was like, this whole time it's like a different Nick. But I don't know. I like Nick. It's like, it's just weird. It's just, it's not weird. It's like, I feel like I have people that like, he works with other people that like, aren't like the biggest fans of me. and then I see this like, I don't know, but I think that Nick's cool. I think if you talk to him, like behind the scenes, like honestly, I think that he's like a really nice person. But this is just like all that I've seen, of him. I mean, just like chilling though. You're not talking the same. We don't. There's like a weird part that comes with business and marketing and like bullshit. Really, at the end of the day, is like I feel like I think everybody kind of gets stuck in this weird place where like I don't know, like how do you sell yourself or how do you market yourself? And like sometimes I think that can go all different kinds of directions on how that can come off, but it's just I don't know. Everybody's hustling. I feel like yeah, let's see. Oh, Gerhardt. So nice. Yes, I feel you, JLo. It's nice. I know tons of people that can't grow weed for shit but make killer hash. No reason to hate. Yeah, it's super true too. It's like it's cool that you say that as well. It's like I feel like they can complement each other really nicely. It's like I used to be the head grower. I was the director for Harmony Extracts, and so I oversaw both of their facilities. And I never like processed hash that way. I'm saying I definitely like watched it. I definitely checked my runs. I definitely did all those things. But Jeremy was the extractor. He's still the extractor there, and I think he's part owner. And he did a great job over there. And I think that like he was so particular though. I will say like hash makers though, they get like pissed at growers if you like even say the sulfur word though. If you even like say that you've ever burned sulfur in your life, they're like, let me check your shoes every time you come in. I feel like it's a real thing. Excuse me. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. But I think that yeah, it's like Jeremy didn't grow weed and he didn't have experience with like hydro or any of the growing system that we were using for the hash, but he was using machines and doing it was BHO extracted at the time, but it was like diamonds and sauce and I don't know. It's like but you're right. It's like that was his thing, that was my thing, was just and yeah, and I did need his help. Like it's funny, but we needed each other's help with like different parts of each other's jobs. It's like obviously when it came to the strains, you could see what returned off of a piece of paper, but like when you actually like talk to him, he would be like, I don't like the color of this, or I do like this, or I think if we, maybe push this out another week or took away a week, or there's just a lot of factors I think that came into it that it's just cool that you say that. There is people that crush at both. And I've seen the same with breeders. This sounds really bad. But I've seen breeders phenomenal breeders when it comes to actually like breeding a plant and producing seeds. But terrible growers. Like, and I don't mean that like even trying to be mean, but like don't have that same kind of, it's like weird. It's like you can get away with having your niche. I feel like it's just really what you are almost like called to and like what you really should perfect is like I will say that like it wasn't like I was naive as I was going to open a MIP in 2014 before that, but I think that a hash lab, sorry, but I think that you have to like really put the time into me to like really stand out and make a signature product is I think that sounds weird, but for everybody is I think that I don't know if everybody remembers like even back in even back like 5 years ago, is like you could look at a grower's weed and you could almost see that all of their weed would look the same. And this isn't a bad thing. It's like it's actually a really good thing. It's like all their strains would be consistent with like the same type of aesthetics or like appearance. And like I just think that it's that's the grower's signature is whatever their recipe and whatever their like attention to detail and all that stuff. I really think shines there. And then I think the same with hash is like I know Adam Dunn and Dave, like they did a lot of shit with hash like on the weekends. Like they would always ask me to come help them or whatever, but I feel like Adam and them do like I really like bubble hash and rosin. I really really do. The problem is like I used to smoke like blunts of bubble hash and rosin and stuff like that. So like if I ever have it, I just smoke it way too fast and get my tolerance like out of whack. So I'm like sloppy with that shit. So I gotta keep it in balance basically. Just kidding. It's not that bad, but I feel like no, I really like it. But I think that even those though, like I see some of these home growers that can make some of the best like hash though I've ever seen, like just out of like their bags at their house, in like kind of just an old school like ice, kind of like simple. I don't know. You're like beating the shit out of it in a bin, and it seems like with just their little bags, they can pull some of like the prettiest returns I've ever seen. Versus like some of the commercial grows now is like I don't know, is I've just noticed like product looks really pretty, but it does not get you high. And like I noticed like a pattern with a lot of customers I've worked like with and stuff in the past is like they had these ideas that like if you pull rooms earlier, like for hash, for pest and disease issues, for all kinds of things, is that like the hash would come out better if it was lighter, and that the weed, you're avoiding like an infestation getting out of control, or the weed sometimes will look like, this is weird too, but like the trichomes is like before you start flushing it is like sometimes when they have like that snow cap like iridescent like yeah just frost to them is like I feel sometimes that will almost like it's not degrading, it's like they're finishing that last week or so, and that will start to fade, and I think that some people will pull their crops to like have that instead of it finished, but it's just weird, it's like the weed just doesn't get you high. It will get you high, but I'm saying like it doesn't get you like high. Respect VW. I just love, honestly, though, that I will say it's cool that you guys can share your thoughts and we can talk about this. Clem D. Sorry. Nicotine enters weed and grow comps. He didn't even grow. See, yeah, and this is weird though. Is like I've seen a lot of people do that though. Like, I mean, a lot of people. It's like most of the people I've seen that have like a lot of trophies. If you ask them how much they've actually, well, they probably would never answer this honestly, but how much they've actually placed with their own in-house of whatever they place in, like their own in-house, yeah, grown by themselves weed, is or hash is like it's pretty discouraging. But yes. Oh, OJ, you just need an indoor tropical forest with your chameleons, all the things. I know. Is I would be so happy. I think you're right. It's like I'm happy now, but I think that I would be ecstatic if I did live in an environment like that with like a whole bunch of plants. Um, I just think the only downside to like Colorado is like I do keep a lot of house plants, but it gets hard in the wintertime with pest issues, especially if I'm like bringing in sick weed plants and then I have house plants like everywhere, and I keep some of my blooming plants in my flower rooms and like it does make it tough sometimes, but I think that yeah, it would be so cool if you had like a really tropical environment like in Belize or in Hawaii, or I don't know, I would love that. Um, Kim Painter, Boomers. She lives out in Arizona and she's like a little green thumb too. You should see her yard is immaculate. Such beautiful flowers. Mike Denver, JLo, how is the cocoa grow going with Dark Horse? It's going really good. It's like we're finally like getting, so we had our first rock wool into cocoa transplant 2 weeks ago. And so it's like it takes so long to get out like the old cycle of plants. It sounds like weird when I'm just like, oh, these plants are just so young and we've been working on this for a minute, but yeah, this is like all the new stuff in the cocoa. So I'm super pumped. It's like it's cool because Jason and Dark Horse, they've been so like receptive and like on board with like trying something new. And it's cool because I don't know. It's like I think it is just cool to like see their reactions and like their responses to certain like growth on the plants or like the appearance of the plants, like switching to my salt mix, like some of these things like I never thought Jason would do because he loves the living soil and like grows fully organically and has never really like been a huge fan of like the hydro side or rock wool. And so yeah, I think with like these adjustment things, like we're building out the rooms as they like harvest, right? So like the irrigation and stuff. So we weren't able to do it yet, but we're gonna do the 4-inch Grodan rock wool from the 1.5-inch rock wool clones. So instead of him going like directly into the cocoa this time, that we did is we're just gonna do the 4-inch and then plant the 4-inch into 5-gallon pots with the cocoa. And that's probably my favorite way to grow, honestly, is where you have like that little buffer and then you've got your block on the top. And it just, eventually when you harvest, there's like no medium. That's what's so weird is there like is no cocoa by the time that you take out the plant. It's the wildest thing. It's just roots, But it's a little bit more forgiving, like we said, if like your pumps go out or if, I mean, just really all kinds of things that can take place. Yeah. I think that is so nice, Mike Denver, that you asked. Is I think winter, is the best time to grow. I think as far as pest and disease and just like everything really. So I'm really looking forward to this is going to be our first official harvest with my system, and I just feel like super blessed because of the time of year that it is. Like yes. Um VW. Okay. Uh Dark Horse TH Caesar. Oh, Tyler Van Horn. Yeah, see, I feel like it's like I'm not gonna speak on too much, but I feel like it's a weird thing that I see. Um, really, the only way to protect your brand is the people you and trust to help protect your brand, because once it gets out and people grow it wrong or they are just not even having the right strain. Yeah, I feel like you're right. It's like this is weird. It's like I wish companies were more honest sometimes, like more transparent about like not necessarily like failures or anything like that, but like when you have a crop come down that like you're not ecstatic about, but you've got overhead, you've got like shit, you've got all these obstacles, like whatever. Like is I wish that as a whole though, like nothing personal to anybody, but like I feel like I've had like over 150 different clients, and I feel like not one of those clients like would ever want to like jeopardize or risk, like you're saying, like coming out and talking about things of like having a room combat like fusarium or aphids or any of those things, because they'd fear that their consumers would like dissipate, and like obviously, or like god knows what could get said on like weed maps. But I wish that the consumers would start like almost like allowing businesses to be transparent about these things, like because then that way you could trust, like you could actually trust what they were saying. Like I feel like if they were like, sorry, this drop isn't like this good, or like sorry, I ran into some problems, or sorry, like whatever is going on, it's like we got russets, like any of that shit is like I feel like it would really change the tone of something. But I see a lot of guys do the opposite. It's like I'll be honest, it's like the first time I went to Cookies, it's like Cookies was like I want to say it was like 450 an ounce. When I went there 4 or 5 years ago, I still think it's that like roughly that much. I know they carried multiple brands, but anyways, I walked in, and I was like super excited to like go, just like anybody. So I was like, oh, this has got to be pretty, whatever. And I was like splurging that day. I was like, I'm gonna go treat myself to some good weed, and so I go in and like I remember it wasn't like I wasn't disappointed in like the staff or anything for the most part. I'm definitely gonna say that like I wasn't impressed with them. But I think that like the like layout and stuff was like where they had like display glasses, like cases on tables, with the product like sealed in the cases, and then they had bud tenders that would bring you like the jars that you wanted to look at, and like you could smell them and stuff. But I just it was like pre-packed weed because it was wholesale, which everybody does pre-pack now, which I get, and like if you're in a rush. But I don't know, it's like it was just not what I expected. Like, and I remember like my weed was like wet, and like some of the cans, like it wasn't like everybody's weed. It was just like certain brands that I got were just it was like inconsistent. So anyways, I wish that they would have told me though that like, oh, just so you know, like even if it was on Instagram the next day, like, oh, just so you know, like this weed, like some of these strains came out really fire, but some of these other ones like meh. Is like or something like that, or we ran into stuff. I don't even know. Like just like told me something. It's like I would go back and I would go buy weed again, and I would be like, okay, it was just an off day, and I'd probably do it 5 times more. Like I know people say like once more and then like make or break. Now like I know with like my side of work, honestly, that like you gotta give people a couple chances. It's like shit can go awry. And I feel like if you like, I don't know, hold it to them too much. But then there's like those guys though that like will only post the fire shit, right? Like they'll go on their Instagrams and they'll like only post like the best looking shit, and I don't know, like their plant like super zoomed in. Like I think it's funny that like all these commercial grows and like all these huge ass brands, and nobody's like posting their grows. Like nobody's like posting pictures of their actual facilities, because it probably looks like shit. And I'm not saying it looks like shit. Like it's probably an old building, or like there's probably issues somewhere. Like there's probably somebody on Instagram that would nitpick, zoom in, blow up, tag, like whatever this spot a PM. So they like won't do these things. But I'm like, dude, you got to do these things. I remember one time 710 had a run. It just made me think of this. Is 710 had a picture that they had posted of like a really pretty strain, and it had like PM in it. This was a long time ago, but I had like a spot of PM on it, and somebody like saw it after the fact. Like it wasn't obviously supposed to get posted or something. And so then they got like tore apart online, right? Because they were just like, yeah. And they got a lot of attention for it. And so then they went through, and then they had the next day somebody post like throwing away the batch of weed, like throwing away the hash or throwing away the product or something. And they were like, yeah, see, like we got rid of it, like nobody worry. And I remember just being like, dude, like what? Like, and I love 710 obviously, but like I feel like I was even like, I don't know, like you're saying this like transparently after you get ate up. Like I would have just wrote back in the comment and been like, dude, that's embarrassing. Like about yourself. Been like, shit, that's embarrassing. I'm sorry we've been running into some shit. Like, you guys understand? Like we're processing this shit. What would you do at week blah blah blah? Like, you know what I mean? Like you could turn it into like the truth. You could turn it into like the realness that we all need to like, I don't know, get through. But then these fire drops that you do see online, like I try to buy any of this weed, like even from different states, and it's like, yeah, you can get it, but it's not consistent too. It's like people act like that. All these brands like Jungle Boys and all this shit is like so consistent. I'm like, this is not consistent from anybody because this plant is inconsistent. Like the growers are inconsistent. Like, I don't know, because we're like living things, all of us, you know? What do you guys think? I always do this. Guerrero grows. Nicotine kicked Clem's puppy. Oh, I feel like it sucks because, I feel like I remember when people like, I think people still call me a poser. I think that, I don't know. I just, $20 cuts. I mean, clone only. Sorry, these are all funny. Quality is squirrely. Exactly, Gerhardt. Like, but you can't. Everybody wants to grow good weed. I like hear all these people that like I'm gonna grow the best weed or I grow the best weed or whatever. And like the truth is like all of us are not trying to grow shit. Like I don't see anybody being like I'm gonna really drop the ball on this. Like get some. Like, no, everybody's reaching for the stars on like, you know, the best of the best of the best. And everybody's trying to stay on their game with genetics. But that like is a double-edged sword. It's like if you change out your genetics often, and you take in new shit, like you're jeopardizing so much in your garden, like by doing that. And it's like, I just think that everybody should go back to like not selling cuts for $20 and like, and not, and I don't mean that like just as a financial thing. I'm saying like, you should go to like companies, dispensaries, home growers, like all these different niches. Like you should go to for certain strains, right? Like I don't want to go to a store and buy 5 different Gary Paytons. Like I could give a shit less. Like I'm gonna buy one Gary Payton. Like I will go to the best person that grows Gary Payton the best. You know, it's like I don't need everybody to grow Gary Payton. And same with the Z. It's like I think it would be cool if like there was like a couple people that like I guess it's kind of like that, but that had their niche with the Z. It's like that's how we create sustainable models and like businesses. You know, like I would love people to come to me for kosher or and I know like I say this because DNA is like I'm pretty sure they're not gonna care and there's nobody. I'm just saying they don't have a store here, but I think that I don't know. It's like I just think that there's a cooler way that if we could all like stop breeding so fast, stop like doing shit so fast. Even the perpetual harvest, I'm so like weirdly against is like I just have this theory. There's so many layers that go into it, but I just have this theory that if we got away from the perpetual harvest and we had bigger crops, like bigger harvests, longer veg times, things like that, I'm almost convinced that you would produce more weed, and keep your garden cleaner. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of stuff going on now. Like I said, like Fusarium, Botrytis, like it's just so scary to take in something. It's one thing to kill like russet mites or like aphids. Like I take in dirty shit all the time, and I'm like, they'll be like, I got spider mites or I got, and if I want like a clone or genetics or something particular, like, yeah, I'm gonna take the time to fix it and quarantine it. But I have like the space to be able to do that. I feel like you gotta be, you know, smoking mint. Sorry. Mints. Ah, I got some new mints crosses as well. I need to update the website. I'm so sorry. I've been slacking, guys. It's just I need to go back on there, but I do got some mints. You guys are so funny. There's a Chem 4. What's the 5 and O? Okay, VW. From a lot of the feminized seeds I've run, there's a lot of different phenotypes and genotypes in the offspring, which made me dependent upon a stabilization of the original mother. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's like you really got to try to find that original mother. I think if that's what you're looking for, obviously these phenos can be incredible in these other ways, but I think when you're really trying to stay true to something and keep it backed up. But I think there's something about just like having the mom, you know, there's just something about it. I wish I could feel different. You guys are cracking me up. I want to read all these, but I don't I don't want to sound like a complete yeah, does anybody have any like really positive things that they would like to let out about one another or anybody in particular? Anybody that you see really crushing out there? Let's see. Was it your cannabis and you didn't want to enter and it was like, man, you got to answer this stuff? Did he win? Enter this cannabis. Oh, that's so funny. I did just smoke his weed though, I will say, and it was fire. But he did say in the show, he was like, I'm not gonna take credit for growing this. He said that the girls were crushing. I wish I could remember the ladies that he has down at his garden, but I think that's cool though. And the weed, it was really tasty. I'm just saying. Ask Jason about the Adam Dunship or ADSI and nicotine entering weed he didn't grow. Oh, really? See, this is the shit. It's okay. I will say one time a really funny story about all this. Today is not the day, but when the time is right. It's like never buy a mechanic's personal car. Oh, it depends on the strains you were watching more than anything, for sure. I think a person who has made food as a profession makes a good breeder. I trust their taste. That is true. I don't know though, I'm not like a really good cook. So I could use improvement over there. If you guys have any tricks to help me in the kitchen, you just let me know. Isn't that the 100 gram pre? Hashalog as I rock rules. He's gonna love that. I'm gonna have to send him a picture of that comment. Yeah, I just think that iRock's a really good person. It's weird because I really think that even like when I was chilling with Nicotine, honestly, it's like I think that like most of the people I try to surround myself with, I'm not gonna say it's all the time, is like we all have rough days, we all have rough moments, but it's like for the most part, anybody that I'm fucking with, like I like them, you know? I'm a habitual offender as far as like I'll bitch a lot about all kinds of stuff, but I feel like at the end of the day I really like a lot of people. But I rock, yeah. I've been smoking his weed all day and it's been fantastic. I'm not gonna read the burger one, but yeah, it is a pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Impalas, you guys are talking about Impalas now. Tark, it is so good to see you. Tark, I wanted to respond to your comment because it was so nice, and I send love to you and your family. It always makes me so happy to see your guys' comments on the show, and I think Tark and his family and some of you guys, like, you are what makes the week have a brighter little star to it. Thank you so much. How often you need to fertigate a 5 gallon? Fertigate in a 5 gallon. I'm sorry. So, okay, rule of thumb is I like 250 mils at a time. Is like, I'm just saying if we want to just like direct answer to make this like easy, is there's a lot of things that go into this, but I would say if you have a ppm meter or you're like checking your EC, it's like check your runoff. But I think that if you start building your time, so this is the way that you're supposed to do irrigation, at least with like Netafim, from what I've been trained this way, right? Is you would take your plant, take a pitcher of water. So we all have these like measurement pitchers for the most part. Honestly, it's just like a full pitcher. So if you don't have the measurements on the side, it's like, say it's 3,000 milliliters that you fill your pitcher to, just so you can see what we're working with. Is I'll take my pitcher of solution and I'll go to my fresh transplant, say, because that's when I'll start them on drip. So I'll take them up to my plant and I'll start my irrigation and I'll start the timer on my phone and I'll see how long it takes for the water to actually have runoff. So it's weird because like when you put water on the top of a plant, it takes a couple seconds to a minute depending on how dry your plant is or what you're growing in. But it can take longer or shorter, right, to like reach this point of runoff. So the Netafim drippers are super slow. Like if it's 2 gallon per hour drip emitters or a gallon that you're using, like I think the 2s are the most standard, and because I use the 4 ways, is you're cutting that time 4 ways. So if we're looking at that, it's like I'll start with the 250 mils. It's just the easiest way I found and I'll see how much that saturates my plant. Like if I'm not getting runoff or anything like that, I'll see how many 250 mils I have to put from my pitcher onto my plant before seeing that runoff. I guess, okay, I'm going to try to, sorry, let's go back a little bit. So if you had your drippers in your pitcher, let's do it this way. So you would take your drippers and put them in your empty pitcher first, and you would fill to 250 milliliters. I'm sorry. That's probably the best starting point. So instead of filling your pitcher. Okay. So you let it fill there. You see your timer on that as well. So then we're going to dump that in the plant, stop the timer. And I feel like if you build as a goal, is I like to do 4 250 milliliter feeds per day. If my plant is in a 5-gallon and I'm like, it's eating it, right? But to work your way up to that is like the plant's not going to like that this first week of eating that way or the first couple days of eating that way typically. So you have to stack it. So yeah, if you can see, man, I want to do a whole show about this now. Now you got my mind going. But if you could see like how long it takes ultimately to run down through the plant, is like you want to be able to divide that time up. So you don't want to feed the plant on drip irrigation that whole feed once. Whatever that time, let's just say it takes 2 minutes. So 2 minutes is again another good building block to go off of, I think, for a lot of drip irrigation. So if you start, it's just hard to describe right now because you kind of have to use both. I guess you don't, but you kind of have, it's good to look at this overall, like as an overall thing. It's good to check your runoff. It's good to see, obviously. It's good to time it from the start to finish, see how long you're accumulating, but you really want to stack that feed over like a couple days. So whatever that time is divide it. You know that your goal is going to be to feed it ultimately that in one day, but it's probably going to take you 3 or 4 days to get to that one day of being able to consume all of it for the plant. Sorry, that's why it gets confusing, like explaining, and I apologize. But yeah, you just tell me how badly I did that, and we'll come back to this. I'll actually try to find a way that I can talk about irrigation better. But I'll actually like bring up the stakes and some of the dripper. I just can't remember some of the things that would be helpful to remember while talking about this. Sorry. Mike Denver. East Coast, there's nothing more now. Year 1 copies. The Grateful Dead played the East Coast, so there was always dank on the East Coast. Oh my gosh. One of the first owners I ever worked for was from the East Coast, New York, and they like had the best tasting weed ever. Like all the chems, all the diesels, they had the plug on cuts. Like Love that group. But it is something weird about the East Coast. Like, I feel like everybody, obviously, I love the West Coast, but I feel like Cali's got a different. They're just like such different palettes, such different strains that I think of when I think of both of those places. I can't believe you guys are talking about Impalas. It's hilarious. I wish I had an Impala. Fazoli. You guys are talking about hilarious shit all over the place. Even white label seeds, nobody tries to breed bad weed. Yeah, exactly. Nobody is like, that's exactly, thank you. I feel like we got to be like nicer somehow or something. What are your thoughts on the carbon-based products coming out by cultured biologics? Well, we were all talking about working together on that project, and obviously that is not going to happen. But I will tell you that I just, that's such a good question. But I feel like because we're going to be wrapping up the show soon, is I don't want to go down that yet. Because that's such a good question. I think that there's a lot of controversy as far as like the supply chain of that, and like as far as uptake in the plant and things like that. Like, okay, specify if we do next Sunday where we talk about this particularly, can you guys put specific questions in the chat that I could answer regarding carbon-based nutrients? And like, obviously culture biologics is like, I think he claims that he's like the only one doing it. Yeah. See, Kim D, how you feel about some people is how I feel about other people. Okay, wait. Just flip that candy fumes I got from over to flower. Stoked to try it out. Oh, thank you, Gale Force. I'm so excited to see. Yeah, I'm super excited that you got the candy fumes, but I'm really excited to see what you think. Is because it's well, I will. Okay, because it's his cut, is Joey's specifically, is I think that it's different from the candy fumes that I'm seeing out on the market. And I know Joey's selling his genetics of the candy fumes for a lot, like obviously, but I think it's like $2,000 for the candy fumes cut from him. I have a really nice group from Boulder that we stay really tight, and they work really closely together. So they're really good to me with certain strains. The candy fumes, I feel like you definitely have to let me know though, is I feel like it's really impressed me with how much it yields. I don't know. These are just awesome. If I won the lottery, I'd be mobbing in the VW bus in an Impala with switches. Oh my God, yes. He's just fucking with you. Oh my gosh. Come on, 49ers. Yeah, did you guys see those Dolphins shredding shit this month? Oh my God. So I am a Broncos fan, but really I am a Dolphins fan. And I know that's going to make me lose a lot of respect from you guys, but I've been a Dolphins fan my whole life, and they have never really been a team that you can participate with that heavily. And it is just so cool to see their coach and all of them just crushing. Crossing my fingers for the Super Bowl. I don't know. All right, you guys tell me your teams too. The silent one is so nice to see you. Our local university just came out with a warning not to use rain barrel collection system. Not sure of the details, if it's in the plastic, if it's the mold, but they said it was not to be used on vegetables. Yeah, I imagine like that's the thing, is there's so much pollution and shit in the air now, and like even honestly like drift and pesticides and evaporation and chemicals and just shit, man. Like I feel like I would use a system like that if I lived like, in the mountains or like in a secluded area. I feel like using that shit in the city, like there's so many things that like can happen to people obviously, but by these like microbial issues and again, like the H2O2, like But that's the same thing though. Is I would even be like hesitant to go drink like, or I'm saying like, if for vegetables, I would water my vegetables with that and use the H2O2. But even that though, I don't think there's so much stuff. I imagine that's like too heavy to actually be removed. Like particulates that would like actually condense. I imagine from the humidity itself. But yeah, I imagine that there's probably a good amount that gets accumulated. And then those like chemical reactions or reactions amongst each other, I really wonder. Like you're messing with like different pHs, different like opposing chemicals, like period. Like it's kind of like pH up and down. It's like I see a lot of people like use pH up and down. Like say your probe fucks up and like you really don't know, like you like put in like a whole bunch of pH up and you're like, okay, why the fuck isn't it moving? Or then you'll put in a whole bunch of pH down, like whatever direction. I guess we're usually going down, but is once you start like actually mixing like too many though, is like or I'm saying like back and forth, like, and you don't think it's a big deal, is it's like those both of those products are not chemically compatible, right? Like they're extreme opposites. So I've seen gardens like I'm not saying that this is like 1000% from this, but I think this is 1000% from this. Is I had a recirculating system with 70-gallon reservoirs at a commercial grow, and I had my my helpers one day, I'm pretty sure they were tripping balls. They'll tell you something different, but they were like squirting the pH up and down in the thing, and the probe was not working, and they were going through so much. They were so pissed at me because I made them empty the whole thing, but they had filled 5 other reservoirs, and they had sworn that this was the only one that shit went awry at. And the plants started herming out like almost immediately. Like these plants weren't even in flower. Like it was the weirdest thing, and I know that that sounds even weird, but I guess it's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Maybe I can show you pictures, but it was almost like if you had a light leak in a flower room, but like it sounds weird, but it was almost like that, like in a bedroom. Like, I don't know. Maybe it happened over 3 or 4 days, but it was definitely like immediately after the pH up and down got a little carried away. Dan never won a Super Bowl. Go Niners. Dan went undefeated one year. I think it was like the 70s that the Dolphins were like really good. I think it all started with like what was that? The Pet Detective. What was it? God, Jim Carrey. So freaking funny. I don't know why I love that movie so much when I was a kid. I personally didn't like cultured biologics. Worst grow in 10 years using it. Thank you, Mike Denver, for making my decade. I'm personally not a fan of it either. Let's see. Aw, thank you so much, Love for the Plant. Great show for the night tonight. Product is not consistent because the plant is inconsistent. It's very nice of you. Love for the Plant. All of you guys, thank you. Thanks for listening to me for so long. I always think it's funny is I always think I'm gonna like come on for like 10 minutes like on nights like this, and I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry guys, and then no, we end up chilling, and I just like end up having such a nice time with everybody. Thank you. It's because the roofing shingles are toxic. This is Mike Denver. Sorry. Rain barrel is not to be used on leafy vegetables. It's because the roofing shingles are toxic. The dump won't even take shingles. Damn, that's crazy. I found out that like mulch and like a lot of like I actually have these flower pots that I love, and they're expensive. They're from Home Depot, and they're like $70 for like a tall, like narrow, I don't know, like flower pot. And it's made from recycled tire material. And I found out like those are like poisonous, and like they leach back into your plants. And the same with like mulch and all that shit. It's like it's treated so heavily. And I don't know. Our dogs seem to like love pounding mulch. So every day I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna like keel over from like the mulch getting stuck or from all this stuff that this is treated with. But it's like weird that we have to be like that. Even like the leaching and water, like say like your plant, the water plant is like obviously regulating the water, checking it, filtering it, all those things. But say it comes out perfect, and then it has to travel through so many different points though before reaching you. And if there's like leaching or I don't know, plants growing underground. There's so many hormones. There's so many nutrients. There's so much shit. Yeah, basically you just got to be a survivor out there. Bring an umbrella. Oh, okay. pH, I love the dropper test. It never lies, and it's cheap. I've done tons of ppm pH pens, and they are overrated. Everything from Milwaukee to Blue Labs. Yeah, even like the Growmore, or it's not Growmore, the Hannah probe. I use those at Harmony, and I've had a lot of people like really like them and in comparison to Blue Lab, but like I've gone back and forth, and like both of them I feel like shit out at like a year and a half. The Hannah probes are the time that I was referring to in this story, but I've had it with Blue Lab countless times, and I've tried different of the Blue Lab pens and like different types. Like they have the one that you can put in the medium, and I was super excited. It was like 150 or 180 just to buy the pen. And then I did it, and it was just, I don't know. It was not good. It was not good. And I had to go back and get the regular probe again. So I feel like they last me like 2 years. It's like, it seems like the last 6 months of your warranty ending is when that bad boy's going to shit out. But you're right. The dropper test though, is like, that's another thing at Dark Horse is like, they're really, really partial to that. Is my nutrients mix. You don't have to pH. It's like the nutrients will pH itself. I'm saying like it brings it to 5.8 to 6.0. And then same thing is if you want to play with that, you can increase the nutrients slightly. But if you mix it properly, is you should be sitting at 6.0. And so I think it eliminates having to like really test your stuff. I mean, it's good to occasionally check in, but I think that's the one thing that makes it really easy with my salt mix. We all know you're chatty. I know I talk all the time. Talk to myself. That's how chatty I am. Cheap mulch is construction debris. It was houses from Katrina. Oh, that's just fantastic. Attempt is the word of the day. Mike Denver, you can attempt to ride the donkey. Charlie Murphy. Charlie Murphy. Did you guys ever see that Prince skit with Charlie Murphy? Oh my God. Oh. Anybody want to play a game of basketball? Charlie, I feel like Charlie Murphy, like they were like, what was his name? Ugh, God, I like space it now. I smoked 2 blunts. I'm sorry. PSA, please check your bongs before taking another hit. Oh, these are fantastic. Well, you guys, thank you so much for chilling with me tonight. It was such a beautiful evening with you on this Sunday. Well, I think I'm gonna head out, but can you please put in the chat anything, and I will be nice. I will be nice answering the carbon questions about the nutrients, but I don't know if that's like exactly what you want me to talk about. Or we can take the culture biologics line and specifically talk about that, or we could, whatever you guys feel like, you just let me know. All right. Well, peace and love. And I do send you guys love this week. Extra love. I really hope that everybody has a smooth and safe holiday tomorrow. I don't even know what the holiday is, but I hope it's fantastic for you. And I do, hope for, let's just say it. We need abundant health, wealth, mentally, physically, financially, all of it. Yeah. All right. Peace and love.
No.